Minimalists.
How do you guys relate religion to the lifestyle of minimalism?
Well, Rob, when Ryan and I talk about minimalism, we're talking about minimalism as a lifestyle in particular. I mean, there are other forms of minimalism, obviously. We're not talking about Donald Judd or Bret Easton Ellis and Lori Moore. When we talk about minimalism as a lifestyle, it's living a meaningful life with less, trying to figure out the things that truly add value to our life, getting rid of that which is superfluous to make room for that which is important. And so, how do you relate that to religion or spirituality?
Well, historically, if you think about the word religion, in the middle is this L-I-G. It comes from the Latin. The Latin is this word root, is this L-I-G is this word ligare, which means to bind or connect. So that's where ligament comes from, because it binds these two things together. So if you think about the etymology, like the structure of the word religion, religion is what holds you together. So that's its intent. Otherwise, life pulls you in 100 different directions. You disintegrate. So religion was always, what are the practices or rituals? What are the things you do that hold you together? So what you all have been doing with this message of minimalism is very religious at its core. You're inviting people to be held together by something other than unthinking, uncritical consumerism. Just the accumulation. There's more to life than the accumulation of dead objects. So when people talk about religion as a bad thing, but then they say, but my friend, they do that religiously. Yeah, they do that on a regular basis because it helps give coherence and holds them together. Now, the problem in modern culture for many people is religion did the opposite. It actually split things apart. It
created tribes, not community.
Yeah. So it collapsed in on itself for many people. That was their experience, which is fine. But it doesn't mean that we won't just find other things to be religious about. So the person's like, I walk my dog every morning. I take a jog, training for it. Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, I have a meal with my kid every day. Yeah, of course you do. There are these things that you do that hold you together. They bind you to a sense of larger purpose, meaning, divinity, bind you to other people. Yeah. So what you all do is actually very religious.
Wow,
you didn't see that coming.
No, you made me feel good about it. Because it's interesting is when we first started this, people were like, "What are you doing? Starting a cult?" And I was like, "No, not a cult," because cult leads itself, because once a cult gets big enough, it becomes religion. But I actually really like what we do because there's no dogmatics to it. In religion, in the sense that you talked about, I can actually own that and be like, I totally, there is a religious thing going on as far as looking at something greater than what's in front of us. And
absolutely. And it wasn't just, well, you think about it in terms of religion for many people was a head game. What do you believe? Like you said, no dogma. What do you believe? How is your mental furniture arranged? That became. But historically, religion was always a path. How do you live?
Yeah.
It was economic. It was political. It was a way of ordering your life and ordering the world. Like in the Bible, over and over again, the Bible is about how does the world get ordered. If there's a widening gap between rich and poor, that's destructive for everybody. If you don't live with the earth in a sustainable way, everything falls apart. So the question is, how does the world get ordered? And in some senses, what you've done is create a space that raises questions for people about how do you order your world? Because there are ways of ordering the world that just lead to despair and a sense of empty what is going on here. And there are ways that lead you to community and love and connection and all that. You guys are way more religious than you realize.
That is a great tagline. Minimalism.
The
philosophy on how to order your world.
I was thinking you were going to say minimalism. We are way more religious than you think.
That's number 2 tagline.
Well, this is from the criticism section on the Minimalist Wikipedia page. So there are a few things in here about religion. According to the Dallas Morning News, more than a few have ascribed religious underpinnings to the minimalist work. But Milburn insists the minimalists are not a faith-based business.
and we don't believe in the law of attraction.
Here's one that Rob will appreciate. In an article titled "Your Minimalist Lifestyle is Quasi-Religious Anti-Poor Bullshit," Vice magazine condemned the minimalists as, quote, glowing examples of as asceticism as solution, ascribing deeply religious motives to their movement because they are, quote, a pair of white dudes who travel the world to proclaim the joys of simplicity and just happen to be close friends with evangelical legend Rob Bell.
Just so happened.
He's
Wait,
been on our
you're reading
podca-
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I
is
was like, what is he? Where is this coming
No,
from?
this is an article that was written about us.
The article goes on to claim, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I guess what Rob's saying is, the Vice is right.
Yeah. Damn, we didn't even know it. They knew it before we knew it.
Pretty much every wisdom tradition had in it some space for I was going to say denial, but that's not the right word, for living, I would call it closer to the earth. You generally find these polarities of feasting and fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what is needed is a celebration of the abundance of life. A big table with lots of food and everybody comes to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to feast.
Yeah.
But other times, fasting, which would be simply going without, is how you realign, how you awaken. And so you can see anytime somebody parks themselves at one of those two, you've missed that sometimes it's time for feasting and sometimes it's time for fasting. So the ascetic, the one who withdraws or the one who intentionally goes with less or without, that's always been one of the ways that people found their soul, lived with integrity, realigned, recentered, experienced rebirth. So it's funny when the aesthetic is spoken of derisively, because that's like a 1,000-year-old human pattern of one of the ways that people have helped check themselves and realign themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just fascinating to see it seen as like sort of trivial or something when the witness of like the cloud of witnesses across history has been, sometimes you need to go live in a cave for a bit. Sometimes you need to give away your stuff. That's all part of the thing.
I think any new idea or minimalism isn't a new idea, but maybe an old idea for a new...
Any old idea that appears unfamiliar.
Problem. Yeah.
What's a new problem?
It gets
right?
criticized.
So the problem now that we have, especially around 2008, we had this whole collapse. Is we realized for the first time like massive amounts of debt. We spend $1.2 trillion a year on non-essential goods in the United States alone, and so you look at something like that and you realize like, oh, we're wasting our money, which we have to work a lot of time to get to buy things we don't want or need. We're going into debt. We have this huge problem with overindulgent overconsumption. And I think around the crash, it was a reset. It was a crash for people to realize like, oh, maybe the way that we're living is wrong. Some people made some changes around the time Ryan and I, we stumbled across this whole minimalism thing. But then over the last decade, I think we faced a new problem with social media and 24-hour news cycles every minute of every day. Now we're facing this we're overly distracted as well. So not only are we over consuming stuff, but we're over consuming discrete inputs, and we're being bombarded with hundreds of thousands of discrete inputs every single day. And what we're saying is you don't have to be an ascetic and go live in a cave, but maybe you can look at what their recipe is and tweeze out a few ingredients and see what's appropriate for your own life.
Yeah. Maybe like one day a week you don't check your email. And for many people, that creates a low-grade panic.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, you didn't have email. So a thing that you didn't have, like think about that feeling when you misplace your phone and just what that sends like neurochemically through your body, the agitation level of a thing that you didn't used to know existed.
Yeah.
Like a tiny little machine that you carry in your pocket. You now, if you misplace it, my whole life is on that phone.
Yeah.
You start going through the 5
so this
stages
is brand new.
Immediately.
Yeah.
This is brand new. Humans haven't ever had this sort of experience that we're having with these machines.
Makes me think about how
brand new.
You talk about the molecules being brand new and the atoms being brand new at a certain point. And where's technology going to take us? It's like we're in it right now. We're in the brand new right now.
Yes. And we're just now learning. Like you think about how the algorithms in social media are bent towards the outrageous.
Yeah.
So this person comments, "Hey, I really enjoyed that." The algorithm's like, "Whatever." This person's like, "You suck." Heat center, throbbing heat center. You know what I mean? And then this person piles on. I mean, the machines are literally tilted towards the outrageous. I mean, if you understood that, you could become president.
Wait a minute.
That the machines are bent in a particular direction. So every person who's like, how did 2016 happen? Much better question. How aware are you of your role in that? Because every time you click something outrageous, you are reaffirming that the algorithms are bent in the proper direction.
And that's the biggest problem with the advertising model. I appreciate that you don't do advertisements in your podcast, and there are a few other people out there who don't. And the reason we don't is, well, we want people to support us for the right reasons. You know, thank you to our Patreon supporters who support us and keep us in this podcast space. But what I've realized with the advertising model is it's only about aggregating eyeballs, because the more eyeballs that are on your newspaper or TV show or whatever it is, the more they can charge for advertising. And so they no longer need to add value to an audience. They simply need to aggregate or herd an audience to their platform. And in doing so, they make more revenue. Well, how do you do that? Well, you amp up the outrage. And then, of course, as you say, we are complicit in the clicking and the viewing and the not turning it off.
Yeah, so, going back to spirituality is a heightened awareness of what these forms that we have created are doing to us. Because spirit animates forms. So we are surrounded by these forms, and these new forms are shaping us. So you can see people waking up to, wait, these machines and the algorithms are actually doing things to us, and we have tremendous power to shape them, to resist, to form neural pathways. There's always an empowerment of, they're doing this to us, but they don't have to.
Yeah.
We can set it down. We can not click, all that.